Oh my gosh, what's up? Welcome back. This is step 3 of our guide to buying your first rental property. Thanks for returning. My name is TJ McClellan, broker of Fitness Realty. This is the Fitness Realty podcast, and we always love bringing you the best content to help you grow your net worth. These 4 steps are definitely going to help you become wealthier in rental property if you take action. All right, without further ado, we're going to jump right in. Step 3 is what happens during the contract process. Because like I said last week, when we found our sweet rental property, now what? Now we got to get it under contract. And this is the process that we do that. So obviously, if you're working with me or somebody on my team, we go through some special training about how to work with investors. So if you're going to become a real estate investor, we know how to work with you and we will provide you the best service. But most of the time with every buyer, I love to go through these checklist items. So we're going to go through those and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of them. But honestly, during the contract process, that is the easier part. Finding the perfect rental, that is the harder part, because honestly in this market, like you saw last week, we did not have very many that had successful numbers. We at the end found one that was exceptional. That was awesome. But that doesn't happen every day. So you really have to grind and find the perfect rental. That seems to be the harder part. The contract process, I can do that on like the back of my hand. We've helped hundreds of people buy homes. That will be super fun and it will be the easiest part. Okay. So we're going to go through this checklist. I'm going to discuss your buyer needs and priorities and timing. So we would definitely be talking about if you need a rental or if you're ready for a rental or if you're doing a house hack. If you're a VA borrower, I'll help you learn and understand that. Maybe the timing is off. Maybe we need to wait 6 months for you to pay off some debt or your credit score to get better. Maybe it's a 1-year wait period because you already own a home and you can't move out of that one before you hit the 1-year mark because you're in a VA financed home or a FHA loan. So you might have some time requirements that are restraining us from getting the rental property. I'll talk to you about all of that. I love talking about timing, when to make it right, market conditions as well, lots of stuff like that. We definitely get you pre-approved. I'd show you our trusted professional list. That's just who we work with. You can definitely work with anyone, obviously, but we have trusted professionals, so I'd love to show you those. We'd get an exclusive buyer-broker agreement signed and a wire fraud form so that legally I can represent you. I'd arrange some showing. So obviously if we found one perfect rental property, maybe we'll just go see that one. However, if I want to show you some extra properties and you're open to that, maybe we'll show 5 or 6 of those units. However, most of the time what I find with my investors, they've already found the piece of property they want and we just go see that house. And if it works, great. If not, we scrap it and I wait until they find the perfect rental. And then we go and see we go and do more showings. We talk about all the things that might come with that house. Maybe it's got a dog kennel. Maybe it's got a washer and dryer. Maybe the rental unit has a fully furnished basement like the one we were looking at in step 2. Lots of stuff we would discuss on that one. I'd prepare a buyer book if this was the route. These are for some of my agents on our team. I don't do a buyer book anymore because I find none of my buyers look at it. They just call me with their specific questions. And so I find that's a better avenue. Just get a direct question to me or text me or call me anytime. I'd get you on the MLS so we can look at stuff potentially. But like I said, as an investor, you probably already found the property we want to go look at. I'd be in constant communication with you. I'd confirm that we had adequate due diligence time. If you want to know what due diligence looks like, we have a video all about how a buyer is represented from somebody on our team. That might be up here for you to click on, but if you want to go to a deep dive about what due diligence looks like, we have a class all about due diligence. We'd carefully review the property with you, obviously. We'd discuss any apparent repairs that were needed. Let's say we were walking through and we're like, yep, the paint's bad here, the flooring's bad over here. We might negotiate those terms in the first contract we send to them. However, what I love to do is wait to talk about repairs until we've done a full inspection on the property. which we'll get to on this checklist. We do any negotiation on built-in appliances, depending on what is in there. Maybe it's got solar panels. That becomes a huge fiasco. We do have ways to convey solar panels if they're still being paid on by the seller. Lots of stuff kind of goes into that. There's a whole nother deep dive. We do have a whole training video all about solar panels as well. We'd review the seller's disclosures and the HOA rules with you, obviously. So we might discuss the HOA rules, or we might talk about what the seller discloses to us. Maybe they had water damage in the basement and they told us about it, or crazy stuff. Maybe they had bats in the attic or something crazy. I've seen a case that went to court that was all about bats in an attic, which was crazy. So anyway, we would talk about what the sellers disclosed to us, and we would talk about those items as well. We discuss any addenda that we have to do with the contract. Maybe I'm related to you. There's a disclosure of interest for that. Maybe you're a VA borrower. There's a disclosure for that. Maybe you're an FHA borrower. There's a disclosure for that. So you would be really using all of our experience as realtors on our team, all of our training and exposure to really help guide you through the legal process with all of the addenda that might come around. And I'll show you which ones are going to be used in your contract if they are used at all. There's over 100 addenda, and so it's really good to have a professional that understands which ones come into play and which ones can protect you and which ones are mandatory by the state. So make sure you have a professional helping you. Let's see. We discussed the REPC. That's a short term for real estate purchase contract. We talk about earnest money, due diligence, settlement deadlines, all sorts of stuff in there. We have a deep dive video all about that if you guys want more interest or if you want more information about those items. We discuss what's included with the house, what's excluded, obviously. We would talk about, or you'd let me know what we're going to do for earnest money. Oh, sorry. This line item is actually for our in-house staff. This is if you have an earnest money deposit. So if we have that, my staff knows what to do with those. Confirmed buyer understands the possession is provided only after completing closing. We're going to talk about what that looks like in depth. Like, do you get the keys at signing and is it yours? That's not how it works. We have to wait for it to be funded and recorded. That might take 7 days after the actual closing. There's so many different variables, but we talk about all those. I would be preparing all the necessary forms. Obviously, that's why you hired me. We talk about any lead-based paint that might be in the house. Anything prior to 1978, there has to be a discussion about that and a form signed. We would assure that the buyer agent agreement is in writing. Obviously, for me to represent you, I have to have a form signed. That's for the state minimums. I'd obtain your check for earnest money. So this is during the whole process. So we've done a lot of steps to even get to writing an offer on this house. And so we would really have all those items in place before we go and write the first REPC or a real estate purchase contract. This line says deliver the REPC, so we would have discussed all those line items, talked about them, signed the REPC, and I would be delivering it to the listing agent. Or we don't really deliver anymore. We just send it on our e-signature platforms and just email it. Then we would be negotiating if we had to accept or counter or reject. There's a lot of things that go into that with negotiations, but I want you guys to know that we are fully trained in negotiations on your behalf. So obviously, I'm going to say it probably 100 times in this video. Hire a professional or just work with us because we all go through training to make sure we can negotiate on your behalf and do the best work for you. We get a copy of the fully signed contract. Obviously, we have to have it fully signed, both buyer and seller signatures on it before it becomes legally binding. So we'd make sure that's done. We get a receipt for the earnest money, obviously, submit all the paperwork to our office for approval. That's just to make sure that everybody's I's were dotted and T's were crossed. Something that I love to do is creating a calendar reminder for due diligence, financing, and appraisal and settlement deadlines. You as a buyer don't have to track those. Me as the professional, I will be helping you coach or helping coach you to understand what those are. Your mortgage lender that we picked that you're going to get the mortgage through, they're going to want a copy of the Rep C. So I'm going to send that to the lender, and then I'm going to send a copy to the title company that is whoever we're going to use for title. Title is a whole nother area that handles the backside of a lot of the documents and funding and recording. They are like a third-party entity, not involved with the transaction in the specific nuts and bolts, but they're the ones making sure that a lot of things go on the outside. If you want a deep dive about that, we have a really fun video with Misha Swan that would be really fun to watch if you want more information about that. We're going to make sure that you've applied with that mortgage lender, though, to make sure we can get the financing. Then we're going to set up the inspection. So during the contract process, like I said, I love to wait before we talk about repairs with that seller until we've fully inspected the house. Once we've done that and got the inspection report, we go hard and ask for everything that's on there most of the time, or we negotiate around that. And there's lots of ways to do that. Then we're going to remind you, don't make any financial purchases on your credit during this process, because that will change your credit profile and may screw up the deal. So if you want to blow up a deal right at the end, go and buy a car during the contract process, and your lender is going to be like, this is the stupidest thing you've probably ever done. So just be really careful about what you do with your credit profile during any purchase of a house. We're going to talk to the HOA if we have any questions. Obviously, some people love to find out like which dog breeds are allowed, big dogs, small dogs, cats, snakes, spiders, whatever. There's lots of weird HOA rules, so make sure you understand those really, really well. We're going to review the inspection. So like I said, we're going to review that once we get it, then go hard for negotiations. We're going to talk about due diligence. That's a whole nother video all about that. If we have any additional earnest money, we're going to talk about that as well. But in this deal, most likely we won't have that. We're going to really talk to title to make sure all of the things are done on the title side, because if the title is conveyed still with a loan against it, then you become the person responsible for that loan. So title is making sure that when we get the payoff, and we can make sure the seller is giving you the property clear of any liabilities against it. So our title does a lot of work, and we really love our title company. Thank you, Misha. So we're going to talk about getting all your utilities set up. Obviously, as a rental property, you want all those utilities in your name, and then when you put a tenant in, they can piggyback on that and put those in their name. We're going to talk about the discussion with possession. Like I said, possession is one of those things that really has a lot of variables in there. We're going to make sure you understand all of those items. We're going to make sure that we do any invoices for warranties and inspections. We got to make sure those are paid at closing. Maybe we'll get you a home warranty. Whole nother video all about home warranties if you guys want to check that out. We're going to confirm that the lender has everything they need so that we can close. We're going to confirm expected completion of all the agreed repairs if we did have any. We're going to schedule a walkthrough so that we can actually walk through the property right before we're going to close to make sure everything looks the way we want it, and to make sure that you are still or making sure that this is still the real estate deal we want to do. So schedule a walkthrough. I'm going to schedule that. You don't have to worry about that. I make sure that it fits your schedule. We're going to confirm with title that we're ready with the closing disclosures. There is a full closing disclosure package that has to go out that you have to sign 3 days before we can actually sign the closing disclosures at the table. I know there's a ton of timing that we've talked about in this video. My job is to make sure that we stay on task with all those time requirements. All right, if we had to bring any certified funds to close, let's say you were doing a 25% down, that let's say it was $100,000, we got to make sure those are certified funds at closing. So typically not a cashier's check. We want to do a wire if it's going to be that big, because that's what the title company will want. We're going to make sure we get the closing disclosure, conduct that final walkthrough, make sure it looks good. Attend settlement. So we're going to go to settlement with you, make sure everything looks good, and we have fun at the closing table, and really and really just have a good time talking about all the things that have gone into this deal. Me as your agent, once it's closed, I'm going to go and pick up your keys, or I'm going to meet you there, or I'm going to give over or get the garage door openers for you guys. We're going to arrange for you to get those keys. We're going to make sure that you get those keys once it's actually once it's actually funded and recorded. Then we're also going to submit all those closing documents to our office at the admin so you can make sure that your file is actually closed. Me, as our team, we love to do a warm thank you gift. So obviously these are some of my staff requirements, but we love to say thank you as much as possible. We are so grateful for every person that takes us on as your company that's representing you, because we know that buying a house looks scary, looks intimidating. There's tons of information out there on YouTube, so you can definitely learn about it. But it's also so much volume of material that it's hard to understand where to start with that. So we just have the tools and abilities to help you. And so when we have people take us on and actually have us represent them, we're grateful for that. So we love to send out thank you gifts for that. And then we've got some consistent follow-up. So I always love to follow up with all my investors that buy a home after that to see how the tenants are going, to see how the tax savings are going. I love to touch base with my investors that way. Anyway, that is the contract process in a nutshell. I know that's pretty long. We're probably going to make that a lot shorter. Anyway, so that is our dive into the contract process. Obviously, there's like 100 zillion other things that we could talk about, because contracts typically get under contract. They go a little forward, they go a little sideways, they break down a little bit. We put the pieces back together and make sure that the deal looks good. However, every deal looks different. And that is one more reason why you absolutely need a professional that understands how to do this business representing you, because there are so many nuanced items that if you don't have experience with that, then you get broadsided. And a lot of times we have the experience that we can help you navigate that without getting broadsided. So anyway, that is step 3, the contract process of getting your first rental property. Hopefully you guys found value in that. Hopefully we've given you enough tools and education so that you can understand the contract process. But this has been another episode. My name's TJ McClellan, broker Fitness Realty. This is the Fitness Realty Podcast, step 3 of buying your first rental property. I love you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.